Provision in the One Big Beautiful Bill, which quite frankly did not get much attention in the House, has now garnered strong opposition as it is over in the Senate. The provision was added kind of at the 11th hour by the House Energy and Commerce Committee. It imposes a 10-year restriction on states from enforcing laws or placing restrictions on artificial intelligence, AI. The result has been 40 state attorneys general. Now, this is quite frankly unusual. You get a bipartisan group, 40. There's only 50 states, remember. So 40 state attorneys general have joined together to oppose this provision and have it removed in the Senate. So what is the reason for such strong opposition? Well, here to discuss this, Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti. He is one of 4 state AGs leading the bipartisan effort to remove this AI provision. General, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me back, Tony.
All right, so this is unusual to have 40 AGs, bipartisan effort. This must be pretty significant. Walk us through this provision and why such strong opposition.
So this provision carves out the enforcement of state laws with respect to AI, and it doesn't specify what state laws. So it could be everything from state laws specifically looking at artificial intelligence, like in Tennessee, we have the Elvis Act protecting the voices of performers, but it could be general application laws, our consumer protection, our antitrust laws, if they're directed at AI in a unique way because of the unique problems that AI poses, then potentially we could not be able to enforce those laws for 10 years in a very fast-moving industry that's affecting more and more people in more and more ways.
I mean, that sounds like we're creating like the wild, wild west, where there's, because the federal government, correct me if I'm wrong, but has been very slow to do any type of regulation on artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, technology moves fast and Congress moves slow. And we have no confidence that the federal government will be able to regulate at a pace that will keep people protected from some of the really obvious harms that we expect AI will bring. And even scarier, it's moving fast, it's growing quickly. We don't know what future problems AI products will bring, and it's essential that the states be able to serve as laboratories of democracy and protect their citizens from this. Now, the flip side is China is developing its own AI products, and we don't want litigation or legislation to kneecap the American industry, but there is a balance there, and this goes so far over the line and leaves us all at the mercy of big tech companies.
Well, isn't this, at the end of the day, a consumer protection issue? I mean, you're, as the Attorney General of your state, you're protecting the people oftentimes from being exploited, and AI is certainly, as we're seeing, even in the early days of this, something that can be manipulated and used to exploit people.
Absolutely. You know, we see various forms of misrepresentation and deceit, but even scarier is as AI gets access to more and more data and AI products refine the way they can use that, we're going to find ourselves being manipulated in ways that we don't fully understand, based on factors that we don't fully understand. And there is all sorts of opportunity there for bad actors, corporate bad actors, to exploit us.
So General Skrmetti, just to be very clear, states, in fact, there were, I think, about 75 provisions or so introduced this year in the state legislatures. Many states have already adopted laws and regulations regarding AI as it has grown in the last few years, and as rapidly as it's changed in the last 3 years. I can only imagine what it's going to be like 10 years from now. But are you saying that those laws and regulations that have already been put into place, that you will not be able to enforce them?
That is correct. Yep.
So what's going to take the place of those regulations and those laws?
I know a few members of Congress have suggested that Congress can act, but we've seen Congress is not very busy these days in terms of passing legislation.
Well, I mean, how the problem is getting something through the Congress that, I mean, it's hard to get legislation through that makes it through, number one, the 3-vote margin that you've got in the House, and then crossing the 60-vote threshold needed in the Senate. I mean, that's just extremely difficult to do. Plus, I'm not sure. Does a one-size-fits-all work when we're talking about the various states and AI?
You know, we have these 50 laboratories of democracy. It's one of the strengths of our country that we can try different laws in different places. And we've been able to do it in ways that promote innovation in the past. We ought to be able to protect our people the way we want to. Tennessee is not California, and it doesn't want to be California. But both states have the right and the obligation to protect their citizens.
All right, just have about a minute and a half left. What's been the response thus far from the Senate? Any progress in getting this provision removed?
Well, there's been bipartisan concern about this in the Senate. I think I'm actually doing a press event tomorrow with Senator Blackburn from Tennessee and Senator Cantwell, I believe. And we're going to have a Democratic AG on as well to talk about how this is really threatening the state's ability to protect citizens. And it will leave a vacuum that a few giant big tech companies can fill with whatever they want. We've seen bad action from these companies in the past. They do great things, but they need to be checked. They need to be held accountable. And this provision eliminates the ability of the states to do it. And we know that Congress isn't capable of doing it in any meaningful sense.
So on the other side of this is big tech. They're the ones pushing for this no regulation, this wild, wild west. The same ones who have been mining our data, the same ones who have been exploiting the American people without Congress being able to provide any oversight?
Yeah, we've seen so many problems in terms of social media, which is a fine technology, but it's been abused in ways that hurt users, especially kids. And there's no reason based on that experience for us to have any confidence that things will be any better with AI.
Well, General, I appreciate you fighting this fight. It's one worth fighting. I absolutely agree with you on this. General Skrmetti, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tony.